Welcome to this channel, Baruch Haba B'Shem Yahuwah. And today I'm going to do part 9 in the in-depth study series of A Living Sacrifice, which is in 2 parts, and this part is actually called Authority and Submission. So it's part 9 in the in-depth study series Authority and Submission, and the 9th part is called The Manifestation of Man's Rebellion. And the scriptures that you can read along, and I would recommend to look up all the scriptures that are being named. The scriptures you can read is 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 10 to 12, then Ephesians chapter 5 verse 6, Jude chapter 8 verse 10, the book of Matthew chapter 12 verse 34, the book of Romans chapter 9 verse 11 to 24. So let's start. Let's find out where the manifestation of man's rebellion started. Where is man's rebellion practically manifested? First, it is manifested in words. Second, it is manifested in reasons. Wow. And third, it is manifested in thoughts. I would actually say thoughts, words, reasons. That's the thing I would say, but okay. He probably got it in a different order. In order to be delivered from rebellion, we must first deal with these 3 things. Otherwise, rebellion cannot be truly dealt with. So let us look at words. Words being the outlet of the heart. If a man is rebellious, his words surely will reveal rebellion. Sooner or later, rebellious words will come out of his mouth, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. In order to know authority, a man must first meet authority. If a man has not met authority, he will never be able to submit. It is useless to merely listen to messages on submission. A man must at one time meet Yahuwah, and then the basis of Yahuwah's authority will be established. Well, this reminds me of the story of Jacob, and Jacob was in some way also very thinking that he could do everything by himself, that he had the solutions, that he could help Yahuwah in a certain way a hand. And there's the last 4 chapters of the in-depth study series, Changed into His Likeness, are very important, and I recommend you to watch these, because these are all about the Jacob in us. All of us have a Jacob, an Abraham, and a Yitzhak in us. And we have more of Abraham and Jacob in us than we have Yitzhak in us. But Jacob was also, he eventually needed a wrestling with the Most High Yah, and this was done in the form of a messenger that came on his path. And through this messenger, Yahuwah works through all of his messengers, And through this messenger, Yahuwah was able to break the natural strength of of Jacob. So he was able to break the natural strength of Jacob. That natural strength is of a great hindrance in us and also for Yahuwah the Most High. Because this natural strength in us makes us also do rebellious behavior, makes us reason, makes us think that we can solve everything, that we can do it all by ourselves, that we can produce the solutions that are needed for the situations we are dealing with, and so on, so on, so on. And eventually it took Yahuwah more than 40 years with Jacob to get that person there where he wanted that Jacob would be. And this is what it's all about. A man must at one time meet Yahuwah, and then the basis of Yahuwah's authority will be established in him. Well, none of us so far, I can say, has met the Most High Yahuwah in such a way as Jacob did. We still need to meet Yahuwah in such a way that he finally is able to break that natural strength in us. When he speaks, he will know if a word of disobedience comes out. Even before the word comes out, the thought of it will give him an uneasy feeling. He will realize that he has stepped beyond his boundary. Well, this is a thing that we already are not doing any longer. Look at the mess in the world and everything, because we have been too over indoctrinated by others, and from generation unto generation we have come to believe that the way we speak is the normal way of speaking, the way we think is a normal way of thinking, and that it's a normal thing to yell at each other, to call each other all names, and so on, so on. So if a man speaks words of rebellion carelessly without any restraining within, he must be one who has never met authority. It is much easier for a man to speak in rebellion than to act in rebellion. The tongue is the thing that is the hardest to tame. Well, I want to add to this. So I want to add something to this. This is if we wouldn't have had this situation of the Babylonian languages and so on, and probably we wouldn't have lesser problems to tame the tongue. Due to all the languages we have, the fact that we have been sunk so low as race, because the human race has sunk very, very low, and because of that the words that they are using are also from demons, because most of the words that we speak are coming directly from demons. Rebellion is something that comes from the heart of Hashatan. Hashatan is a whole army of demons. What are demons? Demons are unclean spirits. They are namely spirits from former human races that have existed here, and what is called Nephilim races, the LGO races, and the blah blah races. So that's what they are, in combination with everything that is created in the astral plane. What is the astral plane? The astral plane is the demon realm. It is also in a hierarchy. You have a lower section, mid section, and a high section. And the astral plane is mainly and formally created by humanity itself. By all the words that they speak, they create all sorts of low-leveled entities. So there are not only demons in this world, but also there are entities we daily create on basis of our word and thoughts. And that's why I say there's first the thought, then the word, and then the mouth. So what is it actually we need to control? Our thought life, because it starts all with a thought, then it becomes word, and then it becomes a spoken word. So the astral plane is a plane that is namely created and formally created out of all the thought forms of humankind. So that is why you need to control your thought forms, your thought life, because with your thoughts you create creations you do not even know of that you are creating them. And the word is the building block in that. So thought, word, and then you have the mouth that speaks. So I would say the order is actually not really in the right order, because it's thought, reason, thought, word, thought, reason, word. Those two, I wouldn't say reason in it. But anyways, this is what the author is saying. And I say, and I get extra information here, that it's our thought life we need to control first, because the tongue reacts on what we think. So the tongue is the thing that is the hardest to tame. Therefore, when a man rebels against authority, the tongue will show it immediately. Perhaps one agrees with you in your presence, but when the back is turned, reviling words will come out. No words may be spoken up front, but the mouth is filled with words when the back is turned. This is because the mouth is so available. Everyone in the world today is rebellious. You can't say that you are not rebellious. Every single person in this world is in one way, shape or form rebellious. Because we all never have met true authority. But the days are coming that we are going to meet the true authority of this world. Because the people on the work floor, even their bosses, are rebellious. And even on the work floor there is no authority anymore. Mostly people pay lip service and submit outwardly. But in the assembly there should not be just outward submission. Well, that is the case, that's there all over the place. Because we all know that the churches of today are filled with lip service people. They do lip service as soon as the service is over and then they can go home. They do exactly the same what they did the former 6 days before. They smoke, they eat pork, they eat other unclean food, they listen to unhealthy music, they are gossiping, slandering, and so on. So, and one day in the week, 2 hours, better said, and 2 hours in the week they can manage it to get their mouth shut, and in their opinion they are doing submission, but they're not. They're doing sun worshipping. They're worshipping Baal in the churches. So this is not the case anymore, people. This is not the case anymore. In the time frame that this information has been written, it was maybe there, but nowadays it's already long gone. No one is obedient to authority any longer, because the world system has taught us to be individualistic, to be me, myself, and I, and to do everything what we want without even taking care of others anymore. And those who do take care, many of them do that so they can tap themselves at the end of the day on their shoulder and say, I have been a good human today. So there is a small group that is truly helping others from selflessness, but I can say that that group of the whole world is so small. All submission should come from the heart. If you want to know whether or not a man is submissive in the heart, see if he is submissive in words. Yahuwah requires a submission of the heart from us. We have to meet Yahuwah's authority. Well, that is something none of us have ever met, but the day is coming that we will meet his authority, or the problem will explode sooner or later. Well, that is already going on in this world. Eve adding carelessly to Yahuwah's word. When Eve was tempted in Genesis 3, she added a few words. Neither shall ye touch it. Verse 3. We have to realize the seriousness of this matter. If man knows Yahuwah's authority, he will not dare add to Yahuwah's word. Well, that's the whole problem. All the 66 books and the apocryphal books are in such way, shape, and form authorized, and many things are added and being taken out. So all those who did that, they will face the consequences when they are standing before his throne. The word of Yahuwah is clear enough. Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. Chapter 2 of Genesis, verse 16 and 17. Yahuwah did not say, neither shall ye touch it. Those words were added by Eve. Whoever changes Yahuwah's word by adding to or deleting from it proves that he has never met authority. So in this case we can already see here that Adam as well as Eve never met Yahuwah's authority clearly. I think the only few persons that have met Yahuwah's authority were Moshe, Aharon, and King David, Solomon, Jacob, Yitzhak, and eventually later on Adam and Eve also, but that was when they fell. Then they started to meet Yahuwah's authority. So there have been a few people in history who have met Yahuwah's authority. Such a one is surely rebellious and unlearned. If a government sends a person as a representative to speak a word at a certain place, that person must remember precisely the words that he is to speak. He must not add anything else to the words. Well, that is something that is not done. Because look at your prime minister. He is reading from a piece of paper, and even when he is reading from a piece of paper, he is still adding things to it, taking things out, twisting and turning words. Although Eve saw Yahuwah every day, she did not know authority. She spoke carelessly, thinking that it was all right to say a few words more or less. If a mortal man serving a mortal master would not dare to add to or delete from his master's words. Well, this is something that is being done on a daily basis. We do that constantly. Look at all the debates people have with each other, the conversations. People have no respect to listen to one another. People are responding directly instead of saying for themselves, like, you know what, I take this conversation and first going home, pray about it, ponder upon it, and then I will come back later to you. That is something that we do not do anymore. All these things are not being done. How much more should we who serve Yahuwah be careful in doing the same? If a man speaks carelessly, it proves that he is a rebellious one. Go sit on a terrace and you can see that all the persons are rebellious. Ham exposing his father's failure. Look at the behavior of Ham, the son of Noach. When he saw the nakedness of his father, he went out to tell Shem and Japhet. A person who is not submissive in heart always likes to see authority in failure. Ham found the opportunity to expose his father's mistakes. This proves that he was one who did not submit to his father's authority. Previously, he submitted through pressure. When he saw his father's mistake, he exposed it to his two brothers. Many brothers criticize others and delight in tearing them down because of lack of love. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 and 5. With Ham, there was not just a lack of love, but a lack of submission. It was a manifestation of rebellion. And this is why I truly believe that this so-called drunkenness of Noach was also a test for Yahuwah to see how his children were, and to see, okay, what is in the heart of his children. And then he found out that Ham wasn't as pure of heart as the other two were, so he immediately could see which heart was the most defiled of the three. Miriam and Aaron's reviling of Moshe or Moses. In the book of Numbers, chapter 12, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moshe. They mixed up family affairs. with the work. This is something we are still doing unto the day of today. We are still mixing family affairs with work. If you go to work, you need to have a separation from work and family. If you close the door behind you of your home, then your family life is for that moment closed. And then you're focused on what you have to do at your work. And at your work, you do not talk about family. But what is the majority of human race doing? Every day they're speaking about their families. They're gossiping, they're slandering their family members, and do everything during the time that they are at work. So family is being taken with them at the work floor. And they allow others to have an eye in their private household. So others will have a meaning on things, and then it becomes worse and worse. And people have no clue that if you do so, that you are slandering is a form of cursing. Gossiping is a form of cursing. So if you bring family questions at the work floor, you are doing great harm to your family members. In Yahuwah's calling, Moshe was singled out. Miriam and Aaron were only the helpers. This was Yahuwah's decision. The disobedience of these two was also manifested in words. If we know authority, many mouths will be shut and many problems will be prevented. Once we meet authority, many natural problems are gone. So you can see that the state of the world that we are in is also due to the fact that we all lack submission to authority. We even have no respect for our boss, but vice versa, our boss even has respect for the ones that doing its work, and through which he may be thankful that his company still can exist, because if these people were not there, his company wasn't there. But many bosses today are jerks and have no respect for their fellow people, so it's vice versa. And that's how we keep all together this disbalance of no authority in life, you know. So Miriam's words did not seem to be an overstepping. She only said, "Has Yahuwah indeed spoken only through Moshe? Has he not spoken through us also?" In verse 2 you can read this. But Yahuwah understood that as reviling, and we can read this in verse 8 of the book of Numbers chapter 12. Perhaps there were many words which they had not spoken. Perhaps what was revealed was only the tip of the iceberg, a tenth of all that was there. Perhaps 90% was still words hidden. As long as there is a spirit of rebellion in man, Yahuwah will detect it no matter how many nice words he speaks. Rebellion is manifested in words. A rebellious word speaks of rebellion, no matter whether it is strong or weak. But what makes this root of rebellion still in life in us? That's because of all the parasites we are dealing in our bodies, as well as in the spiritual realm, as well as in our energetic fields, known as biofield. These are loaded, the biofield is loaded with parasites. We in the body are loaded with parasites. In the spiritual realm, it is also the spiritual realm is also filled with a lot of parasites. Parasites are also actually unclean spirits. You could say these are coming from several manifestations. Not only they are coming from demons, they also come from our thoughts, unclean words that we speak, suppressed emotions, traumas, and we through all this we can create also unclean spirits. And because of that, these unclean spirits, they poke constantly in us. They know our weaknesses, and they know how to poke into this root called pride. But as long as we are in the flesh, we have to deal with it. So we are in a constant battle. In the physical as well as in the spiritual. In the physical, that is being done through the body, because the parasites in the body and everything that is in our biofield is having its life and are constantly poking in us. And then we have the spiritual realm on top of that. So the war is right under our nose, not somewhere in the Ukraine or wherever in the Middle East. No, the war is right under our nose. All the outside wars are instigated wars and are wars that are actually being played out between all sorts of bloodlines. And humanity is being used as a pawn, as a doormat for these bloodlines to clean up their mess and to do the dirty work for them. But these wars and so on are nothing more than distractions from the actual wars that are going on right under your nose. If a man submits to authority, surely he will restrict his mouth. He will not be careless. In Acts 23, Paul was being tried. A disciple and prophet. As a disciple and prophet, he spoke in the position of a prophet to Ananias, the high priest. Yahuwah is going to strike you, you whitewashed wall. But at the same time, Paul was a Jew. He was from the Pharisee clan. When he heard that Ananias was the high priest, he immediately softened and said, "You shall not speak evilly of the ruler of your people." How careful he was in his words and how much he restricted his mouth. Rebellion being related to the walking after the lust in the flesh. So the more you walk after the lust that comes from the flesh, the more you feed the rebellion in you, the rebellious root in you. Man's rebellion is especially related to the indulgence of the flesh. In 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 10, the flesh and the lust were first mentioned. Then those who despise the mastership. The expression of this despising of mastership is shown in reviling words of rebellion. Particular kinds of people live among those who are of their own kind. They have communication with their kind of people. Rebellious ones always accompany those who walk after the flesh. They are also the ones who accompany those who indulge in the lust of uncleanness and who despise mastership in Yahuwah's eyes, walking after the flesh, indulging lust, and despising mastership are all the same thing. Such ones are presumptuous, self-willed, and not afraid of speaking evil of dignities. But those who know Yahuwah are fearful on their behalf. The mouth has a lust, which is to speak evil words. If we know Yahuwah, we will be repentant and remorseful, because we will realize how much Yahuwah hates this. The angels were under those with mastership at one time. For this reason, they dare not revile them with evil words. They dare not deal with a lawless spirit by lawless means. Therefore, if we live before the Most High Yahuwah, we cannot revile others with reviling words. So please notice that it is possible to speak reviling words even in our prayers. Wow! So even in our prayers we can speak reviling words. David could say that Saul was Yahuwah's anointed. This proves that he was one who kept the proper position. The power of Hashatan is established upon lawlessness, while the angels or messengers are those that would not overstep their position. Peter used this as an example to show us that since the messengers in the heaven are like this, we should be like that even more so. There are only two things that cause a believer to lose his power. One is sin, and the other is speaking evil of those above him. The more evil speaking, the more power is lost. If a man's lack of submission is in his heart only, without corresponding utterances from his mouth, his power will not be lost as fast. So there is an idiom in English that says, if you can't speak anything nice, don't say anything at all. The effect of speaking is much more serious than we can imagine. If we were able to literally see with our bare eyes what we would create with words, then we would finally see that 99% of the time we are creating evil things with words, and thus with our thoughts. But unfortunately, we cannot see this. The effect of speaking is much more serious than we can imagine. To Yahuwah, man's thoughts and conduct are the same. As long as there is a thought, a sin is committed. Wow, as long as there is a thought. So here you finally read the importance of thought a sin is committed, however. So that is why we need to be fused, our spirit needs to be fused with the spirit of the Ruach HaKodesh, which is the spirit of Yahuwah himself, so that we only get Yahuwah's thoughts. And so we no longer produce our so-called own thoughts. In Matthew chapter 12, verse 34 and 30 to 37, also says that out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. In the day of judgment we will be judged righteous or sinful according to the words we have spoken. This shows us that there is a difference between words and thoughts. If there are no words, there is still the possibility of covering up. But if the words come out, everything is thrown into the open. For this reason, disobedience in heart is a little better than openly speaking with the mouth. Today, believers lose their power through their mouth in no less measure than they lose it through their conduct. Actually, more is lost through the mouth. All rebellious ones have trouble with their speaking. Hence, if a man cannot restrict himself in words, he cannot restrict himself in anything. This is very important. So, if a man cannot restrict himself in words, he cannot restrict himself in anything. So, Yahuwah rebuking the rebellious ones with the strongest words. Look at 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 12, which says, "But these, like animals without reason, born natural for capture and destruction." This is the strongest word in the book of Scriptures. There is no word of rebuke more serious than this. Why does the book of Scriptures rebuke these ones as animals? It is because these ones have no feelings. Authority is the most central thing in the whole book of Scriptures. Hence, to the Most High Yahuwah, reviling is the most serious of all sins. The mouth cannot speak lightly. As soon as a man meets Yahuwah, his mouth will be restricted, and there will be a fear of reviling dignities. Once we meet authority, there will be a sense of authority in us, in the same way that there will be a sense of sin once we meet the Master. So, problems in the assemblies arising frequently from reviling words. The oneness and the power of the assembly are broken through men's careless words. Today, the majority of the problems in the assemblies come from evil speakings. Only a minority come from real difficulties. The majority of the sins in the world also come from lies. So this is what we see right now happening, unfolding right under our nose. We see now a lot of false teachers coming up, false shepherds coming up, and we see a lot of troubles going on in many assemblies as well as online assemblies, due to lies that others spread about certain people in the assembly, and or done by people that are not part of the assembly but know some people whom are in the assembly. If evil words are stopped in the assembly, the majority of our problems will be reduced. We need to repent before the Most High Yahuwah and ask for His forgiveness. Evil speaking needs a thorough termination in the assembly. Out of one spring there, out of one spring there cannot issue two kinds of water. Out of one mouth there cannot issue words of love and words of reviling. May Yahuwah set a watchman upon our mouth, and not only upon our mouth, but also upon our heart. So that all words and thoughts of reviling would be stopped. May evil speaking depart from among us from this day forward. Then we go to the second one. This is all about reasons. Reviling words being from reasons. Man's rebellion is manifested in words, reasons, and thoughts. If a man does not know authority, there will be reviling words. But these words come from reasons. Man speaks because he thinks he has a reason. Ham thought that he had a reason to revile Noah his father, because he was naked. Miriam's words concerning Moshe marrying an Ethiopian woman was a fact. She had a reason. However, those who submit to authority and live under authority do not live in their reasons. Korah's company and the 250 leaders said that Moshe and Aaron should not put themselves above the others, because the whole congregation was holy and Yahuwah was in their midst. Again, their rebellion had a reason behind it. Reviling words often come from reasons. Dathan and Abiram had even more reasons. They charged that Moshe had not brought them into the land flowing with milk and honey, that he had not given them the inheritance of fields and vineyards, but rather that they were still in the wilderness. They charged that Moshe was just covering up their eyes, saying, "Will you put out the eyes of these men?" Book of Numbers, chapter 16, verse 14. This meant that their eyes were very clear. The more they thought, the more reason they had. Reason cannot stand thinking. The more thinking there is, the more reasons are stirred up. In the world, everyone lives in reasons. We always have reasons for whatever situation we have to deal with. What difference is there between us and the worldly people if we also live in reasons? So as a true believer, you should guard yourselves with reasons too. So that is why it is good to say and ask the Most High Yahuwah to set a watchman upon your mouth and heart, so that you do not speak reviling words, nor that you do reasoning. And that's the whole thing. For everything there must be a reason. And then reason is an entrapment to lead us in endless debates and discussions. Being delivered from reasons to follow the Master, to follow Yahuwah. Indeed, we need to put our eyes and follow the Master. Without reason, are our lives based upon reasons or upon authority? That's a good question. That is something you can meditate upon and do your own search in this. Many become blind when they are struck by the light of the Master, or Yahuwah's light. Although they have eyes, it is as if they have none. Once the light comes, all reasons are gone. Once Paul was enlightened on the way to Damascus, he became truly blind. From then on, he did not care for reasons. This we can read in the book of Acts, chapter 9, verse 3 and in verse 8. Moshe's eyes were not put out, but he was like a man without eyes. It was not that he had no reasons. He knew many reasons, but all the reasons were under him because he submitted to the Most High Yahuwah. Those who submit to authority do not act by sight. A servant of the Most High Yahuwah must be blind. He must be delivered from a life of reasons. So you can ask the Most High Yahuwah for this, to have yourselves being delivered from a life of reasons. Reasoning in the heart is the first cause of rebellion. Hence, if we do not deal thoroughly with reasons, it is impossible to stop the words. If we are not delivered from reasons, they will issue forth in reviling words sooner or later. It's an interesting teaching today. Really it is. There's a lot in it. How difficult it is to be delivered from a life of reason. We are rational beings. Well, better said, we have become extremely rational beings. And that's also due to the whole system that is being created. This system, the world, the so-called world we live in, is a world that is based on lies, corruption, fraud, reasonings, defilements, revilings, gossip, slander, indulgence. So we are rational beings. I would say we have become extremely rational beings. Rational into the extremist. How can it be possible for us not to reason with the Most High Yahuwah? This is a very difficult point. We reason continually from our youth on. From the time before we believed in the Most High Yah, even until now. Well, this reasoning is already starting on a very young age, before you go to school. You do already reasoning. Because you copy the behavior of your parents. And if your parents are people who do constantly reasoning, then you copy that. We reason continually from our youth, from the time before we believed in the Most High Yahuwah, even until now. The basic principle of our living has been in reasoning. What can cause us to stop now? Requiring us to do so will take our flesh life in the gallows. So there are two kinds of believers. One living on the level of reason, and the other living on the level of authority. We should submit as soon as there is a command. On which level are we living? When Yahuwah has a command, do we consider a little and submit when there are sufficient reasons, and not submit when there are insufficient reasons? This is the expression of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil causes us not only to discern things in ourselves, but to discern things established by Yahuwah as well. So this says what we are doing is also putting doubt and debates on the things that Yahuwah is doing. And through that, we end up in reasoning. Reasoning if we should obey Yahuwah, yes or no. All these have to pass through our reasons and judgments. We can reason for Yahuwah and even make judgments for Yahuwah. But this is the principle of Hashatan. Hashatan wants to be equal with Yahuwah. Those who know Yahuwah only have submission. There's no reason with them. The two never mingle together. If a man wants to learn submission, he has to throw away reasons. Either he lives by Yahuwah's authority or he lives by reasons. He cannot have both. The Most High, Yahuwah, does not tolerate reason. The Master Yahusha lived a life on earth that was completely beyond reason. What reason was there for the insults, tortures, and crucifixion that he suffered? He nevertheless submitted under Yahuwah's authority. He did not care for any reason. He was only responsible for submission. He did not ask for anything else. How simple is the man who lives under authority, but how complicated is the man who lives in reason. Well, this the fact that the more complicated you are, the more your reason has to do with the more you are in your mind, stuck in your mind, the more you see reasons. The birds in the air and the lilies in the field live a simple life. The more a person lives under authority, the simpler his life will become. So, actual conclusion of it all is, undo yourselves from all ways and shapes and forms of dealings of the flesh. Reasons is dealing of the flesh. Better said, ask the Most High Yahuwah to take out the root of the tree of good and evil out of your flesh, so that your flesh can be submissive to Yahuwah the Most High. Yahuwah never does reasoning. In Romans 9, Paul tried to prove to the so-called Jews that Yahuwah has called the Gentiles also. He said that not all of the seed of Abraham were chosen. Wow, this is something that many people have overlooked. And not many of Adam's seed, so to speak, because Abraham came from Adam, it's almost in his name. And at the moment, the seed of Adam is becoming more and more defiled. And not all of those coming from the seed of Adam are chosen. So that's what Paul actually said. He said that not all of the seed of Adam, of which Abraham is a descendant from, were chosen. Only Yitzhak was chosen, and not all of the seed of Yitzhak were chosen. Yahuwah chose only Jacob. Since everything of Yahuwah's choice, can Yahuwah not choose the Gentiles as well? Well, he has said that nowadays there is room for everyone in his house. But you need to be willing to have yourselves completely submitted to his authority, the authority of Yahuwah. Yahuwah will have mercy on whomever he will have mercy. And will have compassion on whomever he will have compassion. Humanly speaking, Yahuwah loved the wicked Jacob, while he hated the honest Esau. He also hardened Pharaoh. Is he then unfair? We have to realize that Yahuwah sits on his throne of glory, and man is under his authority. Who are we but humble mortals, nothing but dust? How can we reason with the Most High Yahuwah? Well, I want to say that Yahuwah saw something in Jacob that pleased him much, and even more than Esau. Yahuwah is always trying to find people of which you cannot believe that they were chosen by Yahuwah. And most of the times, Yahuwah chooses those whom are the most complex. And the idea behind this also, because these are, if these can be broken, then they can be of tremendous example for the rest. So that is why he is saying that he hated Esau and liked Jacob, because he saw in Jacob many possibilities. And he saw in Jacob the perfect man, that if he was able to break Jacob, then Jacob would be of a great example for not only those around him, but also for his environment and those who came in contact with him, and who met Jacob on their life path. Humanly speaking, Yahuwah loved the wicked Jacob while he hated the honest Esau. He also hardened Pharaoh. And so is this unfair? Well, we don't know with what reason always things are being done by Yahuwah. Sometimes it would be nice if we could have a glimpse of it. He is Yahuwah the Most High. He has the authority to do things. We cannot follow Yahuwah on the one hand while forcing him to listen to our reason, on the other hand, or trying to force upon him our will, as some people do. Well, many people do. If we want to serve him, we must give up all reasons. Every person who has met the Most High Yahuwah has to throw away all his reasons. We can only stand on the position of submission. We cannot stand on the position of interference, attempting to act as Yahuwah's counselor. Yahuwah says that he will have mercy on whomever he will have mercy. How precious is the word will have. We have to worship him for this. Yahuwah does not reason at all. Yahuwah chooses to do this. He delights in doing this. He is the Yahuwah of glory. So Paul went on to say, so then it is not of him who wills, nor of him who runs, but of Yahuwah who shows mercy. Romans 9, verse 16. Yahuwah said of Pharaoh, for this very thing I have raised you up, that I might show in you my power. So the one and only reason that this man named Pharaoh was on his throne was actually, and was born and raised up, was to be a vessel for Yahuwah to show his power through him. Romans verse 17. And know that Yahuwah has vessels that are of honor and vessels that are of dishonor. And the vessels for dishonor are also being used by him. And most of the times it is being used against the vessels of honor to test him, to test them, to test these vessels in how they have grown into staying in honor. To harden does not mean to cause to sin. It means to give one up, as recorded in chapter 1, verse 26 of Romans. Up to this point, Paul anticipated that there would be more reasonings, such as why does he still find fault? For who withstands his will? These reasons are very valid. Many will agree with them. Paul also knew that they were quite reasonable and sensible, but he retorted by saying, "But rather, O man, who are you who answer back to Yahuwah? Shall the thing molded say to him, who molded it, why did you make me thus?" Verse 20 of chapter 8 Romans. Paul did not counter the reasons. Rather, he asked, "Who are you?" Paul did not ask what kind of words these are. He asked rather, what kind of person would dare to reply against the Most High Yahuwah? When Yahuwah exercises his authority, he does not have to discuss it with us. He does not need our consent. All he asks is our submission to him. As long as we say, "This is Yahuwah's doing," everything will be fine. Man is constantly trying to reason, but please consider whether or not our salvation had any reason behind it. There was absolutely no reason for our salvation. We did not will, nor did we run, but we were saved. This is the most unreasonable thing. But Yahuwah will have mercy on whom he will have mercy. Out of the clay, the potter can make one vessel to honor and another to dishonor. And that's the same what Yahuwah has done. What I say, he has vessels of honor and vessels of dishonor. There's only mercy out of the there is only the question of authority. There is no question of reason. The basic problem with man today is that he is still under the principle of the knowledge of good and evil. So you can ask Yahuwah the Most High to get you out of the principle of knowledge of good and evil, the principle of reasoning. If the book of scriptures reasoned out everything, then we could be justified in reasoning out everything. But in the book of Romans, chapter 9, Yahuwah opened up a special window from heaven to shine on us. He did not reason with us. He only asked, "Who are you?" And then we go, seeing Yahuwah's glory, delivering us from reasons. It is not easy for man to be delivered from evil speaking, but it is more difficult for man to be delivered from reason. When I was young, I was always bothered by Yahuwah's unreasonable acts. Later, when I read Romans 9, I touched Yahuwah's authority for the first time. I began to see who I am. I am his creature. My most reasonable words are but stubbornness before him. The Yahuwah, who is far above all, is unapproachable in his glory. If we would see only a millionth part of his glory, we would bow down and cast off all our reasons. Only those who live far off can be proud, and only those who live in darkness can abide in reasons. No one in the whole world can see himself in his own torch light. Only when the Master grants us a little light and reveals a little of his glory to us will we fall down as dead, just like the Apostle John in Revelation chapter 1 verse 16 and 17. May Yahuwah be merciful to us that we would see how unworthy and lowly a person we are. How dare we argue with the Most High Yahuwah? When the Queen of the South came to visit Solomon, and he revealed a little of his glory to her, there was no more spirit left in her. But there is one who is greater than Solomon. Is there any reason in me that cannot be given up? Adam sinned because he ate of the fruit of the tree of good and evil. So he ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. From then on, reason became rooted in man's very being. But if Yahuwah would reveal just a little of his glory to us, we would see that we are but a dead dog and a lamb of clay. All our reasons would vanish in his glory. The more a person lives in glory, the less he will reason. However, the more you see a person reason, the more you know that he has never seen glory. During these years, I have found out one thing. Yahuwah's work is never according to reasons, even if I do not understand what he is doing. I still have to worship him because I am his servant. If everything that he does is understood and realized by me, I might as well be the one to sit on the throne. Once I see that he is far above me, that only he is the Most High One, and that I should bow down in the dust, all reasons will disappear from me. From this day forward, authority only is the fact, not reasons, rights, and wrongs. So all those people nowadays whom are protesting for rights and human rights and all these things, they have no clue that they are doing this out of their flesh, and that they are obeying the will of the flesh. and the fear of the flesh. Those who know Yahuwah surely know themselves. And once a person knows himself, all reasons are removed. So those who know Yahuwah surely know themselves, and once a person knows himself, all reasons are removed. This is a very deep one to contemplate upon it, and to write down and to sit on this one for at least a week. Those who know Yahuwah surely know themselves, and once a person knows himself, all reasons are removed. The way to know Yahuwah is by submission. Everyone who lives in reason does not know Yahuwah. Only those who willingly submit to authority can truly know Yahuwah. All of the knowledge of good and evil that we inherited from Adam must be removed. So this is something you can do in prayer. You can pray for this, that all the knowledge of good and evil that we have inherited from Adam will be removed from your heart, from your being, from your flesh, from every part of you, physically as well as spiritually. Then our submission will be very easy. I am Yahuwah, being the reason. Every time the Master commanded the Israelites to do something, in Leviticus chapter 18 to chapter 22, he inserted the words, I am Yahuwah, in between the commands. There's not even the word because. I speak this way, for I am Yahuwah. There need be no other reason. I am Yahuwah is the reason. We see this. We will not live by reason from this day on. We have to say to Yahuwah, in the past I lived by my thoughts and reasons. Today I bow down and worship you and you alone. As long as it is of you, it is enough for me. This is actually a prayer, people. I will worship you. So, in the past I lived by my thoughts and reasons. Today I bow down and worship you and you alone. As long as it is of you, it is enough for me. And I will worship you. This is a prayer. When Paul was struck down on the way to Damascus, all reasons vanished from him. Once light shines in, a person falls down. The first word that came out of Paul's mouth was, "What shall I do, Master?" Acts 22, verse 10. Immediately he became obedient. Those who know Yahuwah do no reason. When the light judges, the reason disappears. For man to reason with Yahuwah is for him to say that Yahuwah's work requires our consent. This is the thought of the most foolish. Yahuwah does not have to tell us the reason for anything he does. Yahuwah's way is higher than our way. If we pulled Yahuwah down to the level of reason, we would have Yahuwah no longer, because he would be no different from us. If we reason, there will be no more worship. When submission goes, a lack of worship follows. So once you start to lose submission, a lack of worship follows and comes into play. When this happens, the self becomes the judge of Yahuwah and even becomes Yahuwah. What difference then is there between the clay and the potter? Will the potter have to ask permission from the clay to do anything? May Yahuwah's glory be revealed, so that all our reasons cease. Wow, what an interesting teaching is this today, this morning. I would say re-listen it as much as possible, because and I would say download this video and convert it into an MP3 so you can listen to it constantly. It's not about me sitting here, it's about the information that I may pass on to you, and that the Most High Yahuwah wants you to know, because this is very important, people. We need to see this in ourselves. Even I, when I read, I see things that I also do and need to get rid of it and need to stop doing. So for me, it's also a learning. When I read this to you, I learn with you. And I'm also just a student still in many things, and we are in some moments we are teachers, in some moments we can be masters, and in most of the cases we are students. So thank you so much for listening to this teaching, message, and words of wisdom and truth. And if you like this content, if you like this content, please share it with as many as possible, brothers and sisters from all sorts of soil. And subscribe yourselves also to this channel, because there's a lot interesting food for your spirit coming. And this coming weeks and months, there's a lot on the shelf laying to be read to you, and that will be tremendous food for your spirit. And I truly can say that your spirit longs for such good food as the food that will be presented the coming weeks and months. All right, I wish you all a very beautiful and baruch day, and please do not forget to thank Yahuwah the Most High in everything you do, and to worship Him and Him only. And Baruch haba b'Shem Yahuwah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. See you next time.